wake up. You need to know this. The techies know this, okay? But everyone needs to know this. 8 years from now, the smartest being on the planet is going to be a machine, okay? Even worse, by 2049, machines will be 1 billion times smarter than us. 1 billion with a B. Okay. Now 1 billion times is comparable to the intelligence of a fly to the intelligence of Einstein. The real question is, how do we convince Einstein that there is no point in crushing the fly?
Do you believe that there's an algorithm to happiness? Will artificial intelligence machines take over? Today's guest answers all these pressing questions and much more. What's up, everyone, and welcome to another mind and heart opening conversation on Just Tap In. I am your host, Emilio, and today we brought on a true heart-based business leader and technology shaper. He's the former chief business officer at Google X, Google's moonshot factory of innovation. After working at IBM and Microsoft, he was the man that led Google's expansion in emerging markets such as the Middle East and Africa. Mo Gawdat is an Egyptian serial entrepreneur who's co-founded more than 20 businesses, and he's also the board member of top technology companies and often mentors up to 10 startups at a time. After falling into the rat race of achievement, accumulating massive wealth, and still feeling miserable, for the past 15 years, he's made happiness his primary research topic. Following his son Ali's unexpected death in 2014, he poured his findings into what became an internationally bestseller called Solve for Happy. Now his mission is to help 1 billion people become happier through his engineered model, which we get into in this conversation. His latest book is called Scary Smart: The Future of Artificial Intelligence and How You Can Save Our World, a roadmap detailing how humanity can ensure a symbiotic coexistence with AI when it inevitably becomes 1 billion times smarter than we are. Remember, the number one thing that you can do to support our growth and access more empowering conversations with some of the wisest teachers in the world is to subscribe to this channel and like this video to help it get shown to more people like you. Now, without further ado, we bring you the man who is widely respected in Silicon Valley, not only for his brains, but for the power of his smile and heart, Mo Gawdat. Mo, how are you, brother? Welcome on the podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's been a while in the making, so thank you for waiting and thank you for hosting me. It's very generous of you, and I hope we have a wonderful conversation.
Of course, man. This conversation takes me back to when I was 21. I was traveling around with my family, and I was gifted your book, Solve for Happy, by an ex-girlfriend, and she was encouraging me to start reading more in Spanish. So I picked up the book in Spanish. It was, as I told you, El Algoritmo de la Felicidad. Mm-hmm. And when I saw the cover, very simple cover. It's a happy face, Mo Gawdat, Chief Business Officer of Google X. I was like, wow, I'm really interested in this because I was also getting into this personal development field.
Yeah.
And when I started reading your story, the first chapter, it just amazed me because I felt that it could resonate with so much of the Western culture that I grew up in the US. And just to like dive into your story, we're talking about you moved to Dubai at a certain point in your life with your whole family, and you were just surrounded by these super rich friends, and you were stuck on a hedonic treadmill. You bought 2 Rolls Royces because you could, and you were trying to, fill this hole in the soul that sometimes we have and we look for externally. So it really resonates a lot with what this show is about. And I wanted to start diving into your first breakthrough, which was a conversation that you had with your mom, and she had a saying. She had a saying that was translated to, work hard, save up, and then you will be successful. That's a belief system that you grew up in. We've had a lot of guests on this show talk about how our beliefs shape our reality.
Totally.
The main mission of our mind is to align our beliefs with the reality that we see externally. So you were kind of trying to control the whole world, right? You were trying to control the whole world, working hard. Tell us what was going through your mind in that point in your life that was really like a low point, a low moment that made you realize you needed to change some things.
Look, I mean, the truth is this is not something that is special to me at all. I mean, in reality, since I started my work on happiness, I've taught maybe thousands, tens of thousands of people, my happiness method and so on. Some of them are multi-billionaires, and it's really interesting because you think that there are certain things that are greener on the other side, but happiness is exactly the same. It doesn't really matter what you have. You can still be miserable. Okay, you could have the most beautiful girlfriend on the planet, and that girlfriend is really the reason why you're unhappy. Okay, you could have a Rolls Royce and look at the other Bentley next to you and go like, "What's wrong with me?" Right? And it really is quite interesting because I'm probably the most fortunate person you'll ever meet. I'm born and raised in Egypt, went to public school and public university in Egypt. So, the odds, the mathematical odds, if you want, for me to go on to become the chief business officer of Google X are not really high. I mean, mathematically, most of my friends continued in Egypt and succeeded in Egypt, but, didn't go as far as I did. And that happened to me very early in life. So, I would say I had my middle age crisis when I was 29. Okay. Simply middle age crisis defined in my definition as the moment in life where you achieve everything you've ever strived to achieve. And you start to go like, is that it? Is this what life was really about? I didn't think it was about that. And I think what ended up happening is by 29, I had married my college sweetheart, who is until today, even though we separated a few years ago, is my absolute best friend. I publicly always say is the most wonderful woman on the planet. Even today, she's a stunning beauty queen. Imagine how she looked, when we got married. She gave me two wonderful children that really, really were a pure joy. I was printing money on demand. I literally wouldn't be able to tell you how much money I would have in my account tomorrow because money flew in every single day in abundant amounts. Okay. And remember, 5 years earlier or 4 years earlier, I had nothing, literally nothing. And yet I was miserable. I was clinically depressed when actually 4 years earlier, I was the happiest person on the planet. The problem with this situation, which actually is the problem with most people who have gone through the whole journey, is that you start to bombard your problem with money. Okay, you go on vacations and you buy expensive cars and you live in fancy places and you wear Armani suits and all of that stupidity. And the problem is that the more you do it and not feel happy, the more you move from depression to despair. It's like, this is a problem and I can't solve it with everything that they've told me about happiness, because everything they told me about happiness is wrong, right? Everyone believes that we are supposed to go through a very predictable path in life, the path that my mom told me, which is work hard, save, be successful, and then happiness will find you at the end of that rainbow. Okay, when the truth is, believe it or not, before the rainbow starts, you were happy. Okay, as a matter of fact, all through the rainbow, you're suffering and miserable, and you're not accepting your life. And you buy something, and then you look at it and you go like, why didn't I buy the gold one? And then you buy the gold one, and you go like, but that's too small, and it's just so stupid, right? And the truth is, every time I say this to people, they tell me, of course you can say that because you've made it. No. You can also measure that on your own self. I mean, look at you, Emilio. I'm sure many of your friends will now have graduated and are ready to engage in life in some form or shape, and they'll tell themselves, look, if I make $1,000 a month, that will be amazing because I can go out and I can have party and right. And then within a short while, you make $1,000, and I promise you, then you will say, no, I meant 1,500. If I made 1,500, I'd be better. And then, you'll make that and you'll say, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I lease a car now? And then I need 2,000 and then I need 5,000 and then I need, and it's endless. Every time you achieve, the goalposts move. Okay. And then eventually you find that yourself running in that treadmill and nothing's making you happy. And that's the truth. The truth is because happiness never comes from outside you. You were freaking born happy. Okay. And
it's the default mode, right?
It is your default mode. It's how you come out of the factory, really. And it doesn't take a ton of research. I jokingly say in the book that I did an enormous amount of research to prove that, which was 4 hours on YouTube looking for kids videos, right? Like literally search for kids, and kids by definition are happy if you give them their basic needs for survival. Huh? If you're not beating them or shouting and screaming around them, or if they don't suffer a wet diaper that's irritating them, they're happy. They don't ask for an Xbox. They don't anyone to like their butt shot on Instagram. It's basically their default setting. Right? And the idea is we're born that way. It's your default configuration. And then we run out of happiness because suddenly we start to develop all of those expectations and thoughts and aspirations, which we never really needed to start with. But at the end of the day, in their absence, we're not happy anymore.
Yeah. And all of this, what you're saying, resonates a lot with a quote from Alan Watts that a guest on our podcast told us the other day. And he basically says, it's not until you get what you want that you realize that's not what you wanted. And,
exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, and Jim Carrey has like his own way of saying it. Like, I wish everyone was a Hollywood celebrity so that they would realize that's not what they wanted. But that takes a while, I think, to realize. And until we're not there, like right now, we could say this is what we want in our present moment. And when we're there, we might say we might want something different. Was there a point in your life, or even maybe now, where you can maybe predict that something that you want right now, when you actually get there, could it be that it might not be what you wanted?
Everything without exception is not going to be what I wanted. Without exception. Okay. I mean, think about it. Your love life. We aspire to have that wonderful person in our life, and that wonderful person is going to be loving and caring and beautiful beyond compare and handsome like John or George Clooney or whatever that is, right? And then you end up with that person, and they could be loving and caring, and he or she could be buying you flowers every day, and then like I normally make the joke, if you're a woman, your boyfriend could be buying you flowers and chocolates and hugging you and kissing you and telling the whole world how happy he is with you, but he has 4 hairs in his ear, okay? And you would simply look at the 4 hairs and say, ugh, what does that mean? He's not grooming for me. I mean, does he know what I do for him? And, if he's not grooming for me, then that basically means he doesn't love me. And why doesn't he love me? Am I fat? Am I getting old? Is he cheating on me? Am I going to go back on the dating scene? Am I going to spend the rest of my life alone? Should I commit take my own life now? What's the point in living without? We can create all of those stories because of 4 hairs. Now, the more interesting bit is not the 4 hairs. The more interesting bit is that we forget the flowers and the chocolates and the hugs and the kisses and the I love yous. And, it is so crazy. Our brains are designed to look for what's missing and what's wrong, not what's available and what's right. Okay? It's just the design of the brain. You have to understand, our brains are not made to please us. They are a survival machine. They're out there to basically tell you something is wrong, something could be harmful, something could jeopardize my position in life, whether that's my physical safety or my psychological safety, my ego. Okay, if you post something on social media and you don't get 50 likes, you go like, is there something wrong? Am I going to be rejected by the world? No, it's just it's totally worthless. And you think about it, in the cavewoman years, if your brain saw a tiger approaching, the brain has no benefit whatsoever to tell you, oh my God, look at how majestic this animal is. Look at the muscle tones. Oh my God, look at that strut. That animal is so pretty. Your brain wants to say we're going to die. And basically, it sees benefit in reminding you that we're going to die, even if you're not. And so we leave the jungle, and your partner says something hurtful, we're going to die. Your boss is annoying. I mean, bosses are supposed to be annoying. We're going to die. You're going to go to an exam. We're going to die. Everything is we're going to die. And that's the job of our brain. Okay. So if we don't take control and tell the brain, hey, by the way, remember the chocolate, remember the flowers, remember the hugs and the kisses, and maybe even take more charge and say, can we do something about it? Can we text him and say, baby, over dinner next time, I want to talk to you about something. And then, you tell him that there are 4 hairs, and why are you not grooming for me? Right? It's very simple, huh? Yeah. But we don't do that. We let the brain take over. And so we end up in misery.
Yeah. And one of the things in the beginning of Solve for Happy, when you were talking about the illusions, and it's this illusion of this voice in our head. And that's been a complete game changer for me in all aspects when I started going into meditation and really observing my thoughts. And you say in the book, if there's a way that you can acknowledge that there's thinking going on in your head, is because there's another part of you that's observing that. Could
Absolutely.
You get into when you uncovered this mystery or this secret that there's 2 different, or maybe even more, parts in your brain that are constantly thinking? What was your realization when you came to that conclusion?
Look, the reality is that there are many. Let me take people quickly through the basis of the theory that I work on. So I work on happiness as an engineer, right? And we could come back to this in a bit, but I believe that happiness is super highly predictable, that it even follows a mathematical equation, right? Now, because it's super highly predictable and there is an equation to reproduce it, an engineer would start to say, what's wrong with the machine? And what's wrong with the machine is that we enter the wrong values into the equation. We don't see life truly for what it is. And when you don't see life truly for what it is, you get very upset about things that don't deserve to be upset about, or you react to the things that upset you in ways that don't, that are not going to take you out of your misery, if you want. Now, I call those illusions, right? So if you input the wrong information into an equation, it's because you're deluded in what you see or in what you perceive, right? And the biggest of all illusions, if you ask me, is what I call the illusion of thought. Okay, the illusion of thought is the idea that in the Western culture, because we glorify thinking and intelligence so much, we think that thinking is the most fundamental form of who we are. Like the famous saying, "I think, therefore I am." Okay, so Descartes, the French philosopher, right? So I think, therefore I am is literally equating me with my thoughts. I am my thoughts. And if I am my thoughts, right? If I am my thoughts, then I listen to those thoughts. Then they must be freaking brilliant. If my brain tells me something, then it must be something I should listen to, right? And the truth is the opposite of that. So, and that's not new science at all. This actually is 1920, I think, if I remember correctly. Lev Vygotsky was the Nobel Prize winner from a Russian Nobel Prize winner who initiated that whole concept of what is known as the internal dialogue. Okay, that those thoughts are basically a form of dialogue between 2 parties, and basically his proof at the time is that when we think inside our heads, you have the same movements in your voice box, even though a little less noticeable, that you have when you're speaking out loud. Okay, oh, wow. And that basically in his theory was a result of when we learn words as young children. infants, we just narrate the world out loud. Like to make sense of the world, you see a plane, and so you say aeroplane, right? And your mommy goes like, bravo, baby, it's an aeroplane, right? And then eventually it becomes awkward, so you internalize that dialogue. That's the way of you informing yourself about, or your physical form informing you about the concepts, the physical concepts in the world. Now, that was proven without a doubt with endless MRI studies afterwards. The one that's my favorite is an MIT study that was conducted in 2007, where they put participants in MRI machines and they give them puzzles, word puzzles, right? And they observe which part of the brain will light up while they're solving the puzzle. And the participant's brain will light up for a few seconds to solve the puzzle. And then the rest of the brain will stop, and the verbal association area segment or area of your brain back here would actually light up for up to 8 seconds after the participant found the answer. So the brain has solved the problem. It takes up to 8 seconds for the brain to use the same area that it uses to speak out loud, the area I'm using now to talk to you, and then the participant would become aware of the answer. Those 8 seconds are the 8 seconds where your brain is literally talking to you. Your brain is literally building the building blocks that translate the concept that it found by solving the problem into words so that you can get it. Now, that's the science of it. But does it even need science? I mean, when you think about it, if the voice in my head was me talking to me, why would it need to talk? Like, if it was me talking to me, I would know what it's saying instinctively. Now, that's the biology of that wonderful little device that we have that's basically responsible for turning sensory information into concepts, into words, so that you get them. Now, if you start to see it that way, everything changes. Okay? Because to start with, your heart has a biological function. Your heart's biological function is to pump blood around your body. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I pump blood, therefore I am. Okay? If you don't mind me being a little rude, nobody says, I piss, therefore I am, or the other one. Okay? Right? But yet we glorify the biological product of our brain. I think, therefore I am. That's number one. Now, if we see that it's a third party, okay, that it's a brain, a 3-pound lump of meat, that has a very interesting biological function, which is thought, okay, suddenly everything changes, because you no longer have to listen. You no longer have to obey, okay? And you can tell it to shut the F up, like literally, which I do all the time. So I call my brain Becky, which is a third party, okay? And when Becky speaks, okay, I treat my brain like Becky. I go like, that was stupid. What you just said is stupid. Like, really, where did you come up with that? You have proof for this, Becky? Do you have anything that that you can back this up with? Like, it's so simple when you see it that way. And openly every now and then I go like, not now, Becky, I'm busy. Like, I don't have time for this waste of life that you're doing for me. And I have other priorities, other things. When my brain tells me your daughter doesn't love you, I go like, go fly a kite. What are you talking about? Okay? Even though that thought, without that separation, would have been me telling me your daughter doesn't love you, and collapsing as a result of that.
Yeah, and I think that transition, there's a transition from only identifying with your thoughts to what you're doing now, which is a much more like heart-centered emotional approach to life. I mean, you're talking about happiness, and you're talking about all these concepts. And when I feel you, and when I listen to other interviews, I see that you're coming through your heart. And
totally,
there was really a moment in your life that we could get into that kind of led you down this path of heart-based leadership and making these connections and realizations that you wanted to take on this mission of putting out happiness into the world. What happened, and what could you tell us about that story?
Life has interesting ways in terms of shaping you when you're ready to do what you're supposed to do. So I took, after my late 20s, I took around maybe 12 years of research. But when I put my mind to something, I really, really do the work. So it took me 12 years of research to develop the happiness model, to make it very solid, to test it with others, and so on and so forth. And by the end of those years, I was, unstressable, really. There was nothing you can do to dent my happiness. Okay, and of course that journey on my side was led by my left brain, very analytical, very, very scientific, data driven, and so on. But it was also guided by my best friend and my son and my mentor. Truly, I'm an amazing human being that came into my life that was so wise that by age 16, I would tell myself, when I grow older, I'd like to be like my son. Right. And my son Ali knew everything I would have to spend 12 years of research to achieve. He knew that instinctively. He was always calm, always contented, always peaceful. He was truly the example of what it's like to have found enlightenment, if you want. And so I would study happiness. I would study it hard. I would work on it. I would find something out. I would go spend time with Ali. And Ali, literally like a wise sage, would entertain me and go like, "Oh, that's so interesting, Papa." And then ask me a few questions that I realized he was just asking me because, he wanted to make me feel that I did something important. And then he would stop for a second and say, "You could have just asked me." Right. And in truth, it was true, because he instinctively understood the heart side. What it is like to feel, to be in peace. Okay. And so to be at peace. And so, together we developed that model that worked, right? So I wrote it in Solve for Happy in the logical, scientific, engineer's way, because that's what the world needs. Okay. But in my heart, I was taught the heart way. Okay. Yeah. Which is what you eventually end up, when you've mastered the skill to the point that you don't have to think through it anymore. Okay. Ali, sadly, after training me and making me ready, when he was 21, he left me a few clues, if you want, of how my life should turn. And then sadly, he left our planet because of a stupid, preventable medical malpractice. Ali was diagnosed with a simple, appendix inflammation. And he, normally it's the simplest surgery on the planet, 4 minutes, really. And the surgeon did 5 mistakes in a row. Every one of them was preventable. Every one of them was reversible and fixable. But the 5 in a row and not being fixed properly, Ali left in 4 hours. So from the moment where I hugged him to the moment he was no longer there was 4 hours. And you get into that moment, and suddenly it's everything going through the test, because the typical, I hope nobody ever experiences this, but I'll tell you, it's the biggest pain you'll ever feel. It just contradicts everything you know about life. And so you find yourself in that space. I had been given, most people will think when you grieve, you have only one choice, which is, I'm going to feel the pain for as long as I need to, and that's it. Okay? Which is true, by the way. You're going to feel the pain regardless. But the thing is, if I had hit my head against the wall for the next 27 years, on my deathbed, I would still be without Ali. Do you understand that? So, it basically doesn't change a thing to be unhappy for 27 years. So the truth is, I had another choice, which most people don't see. Okay. The other choice was, I could actually try to do something positive about this. Okay. I could try to find the silver lining, if you want, to that tragedy. And at the end of 27 years on my deathbed, I still will not find Ali. Ali will not come back. This is the truth. Okay. And most of the time, the events that really are worth our unhappiness, okay, are events we cannot really change, because everything else you can change. Okay. Now, but without him coming back, I decided maybe what I should do is I should share his method with the world. I mean, he basically 4 days after he died, his wonderful sister Aya came to me and said, Ali had a dream. He shared it with me, didn't share it with anyone else. and his dream was to be everywhere and part of everyone.
Wow.
And in my blurry business executive mind, she said he felt so amazing that he didn't want to be back in his body. And that was 2 weeks before he died. And in my mind, that basically meant something that's very odd. But I remember vividly that my only response to her saying this was, consider it done. Okay, I mean, at the time I was chief business officer at Google X. I had, for 7 years before that, been the vice president of emerging markets. I started half of Google's operations worldwide. I knew how to reach billions. Okay, and so everywhere and part of everyone, that's easy. I mean, if I can share his essence, what he taught me, with the world. At the time, my mission was 10 million happy. If I can reach 10 million people and then we wait 50 years through 6 degrees of separation, a tiny part of that essence of Ali will be everywhere and part of everyone. And I know it sounds mad, but at the time I literally said, consider it done. Okay, I'm going to make that happen. Right? And so I got up and I wrote Solve for Happy, and it got translated into 31 languages, bestseller almost everywhere it published, and it almost feels like the universe wanted Ali to be everywhere and part of everyone. Now, here's the thing: it doesn't bring him back. Do you understand that? It doesn't. It's still, I still wake up every other day, and my brain starts the day by saying, "Oh, Ali died," and I go like, "Yeah, I know, brain. It doesn't change anything." And you still feel the pain, and as a parent, I'll still miss him for the rest of my life. There's absolutely no change there. But to know then the tens of millions that found happiness as a result of Ali's departure, okay, makes it sort of not for nothing that he left. Okay, it just compensates for the loss of his love, which is the most amazing gift I was given in my life, by the love of all those many others that may feel, okay, thank you, Mo, you said something that changed my life, right? It doesn't bring him back. But now that, if you ask me, is the Jedi Master level of happiness. Okay, I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I actually believe that there are levels. Level 1 is to stop wanting what you don't have and start loving what you have. Level 2 is, if you don't, if something is wrong with your life, don't just surrender, do something about it. And level 3, which really, really is the Jedi Master level, is if you can't do anything about it, can you find committed acceptance? And committed acceptance is simply, can I accept it because I can't change it? Okay? And yet commit to change my life despite its presence. Okay? Can I accept that Ali left because I can never bring him back? And then can I do something that makes my life tomorrow a little better than today, and after tomorrow a little better than tomorrow? And that's it, really, okay? It doesn't bring him back, but it makes life better for you and for others. And I think that is the core. If you think about it this way, happiness is a flow chart. It's very straightforward. It's, is what I'm feeling true? Should I feel unhappy about it? If it's true, can I do something about it? If I can't do anything about it, can I accept it and make my life better despite its presence? And it really is that straightforward.
And what's the difference between that and just pure suffering?
So in many definitions, so the word suffering is viewed, at least as I define it in Solve for Happy, as repeated unhappiness. Okay, so you have to understand that there is a difference between pain and suffering. Okay. Now, the easiest way to understand this is to think about physical pain. Physical pain is I poke my finger with a knife. So I feel pain because my physical biological machine wants to protect itself, so that pain signal that lets me pull my hand away and protect my finger. Okay? As long as my finger is cut, there is still pain, so that I don't put it in too much heat or too much water or whatever. Right? Once the reason for the pain goes away, the pain is gone, right? None of us have the ability in our biological system to regenerate that pain on demand. Okay, to regenerate that pain on demand, you would have to cut yourself again and again and again. That's suffering, Okay. Now, when you think about psychological pain, mental pain, if you want, psychological pain is different because your girlfriend or boyfriend can say something hurtful on Friday, right? It happened on Friday. You felt the pain on Friday. Then Saturday morning, you go like, okay, brain, remember yesterday 4 p.m. that I like that clip. Play that clip again. Okay, like literally like the YouTube of unhappiness. It's like, can we watch this one more time, right? And then you torture yourself with it, and then you go on Sunday and say, he or she doesn't love me anymore. Let's just add to the drama, okay? And you can go through those cycles. I call that pain on demand, because you have the ability, unlike physical pain, you have the ability to regenerate psychological pain on demand. Now, remember, like physical pain, which is there to protect you, psychological pain is for the same reason. If I feel anxious about our conversation today, I sit down and prepare in the morning, right? If I feel that I said something hurtful to a friend or a loved one, that regret that I feel is a trigger for me to get up and do something about it, right? And so, given the choice to stop the pain, you want the pain because it alerts you and keeps you safe. Okay, it's the suffering that we can get rid of. And how do you get rid of it? By removing the pain on demand. By simply saying, look, if I have something that's causing me pain, let me deal with it rather than sit in a room and cry about it. Okay, if your boyfriend, girlfriend said something hurtful on Friday, okay, instead of waking up on Saturday and replaying the clip, or even if you replay the clip, text them and say, baby, there's something we need to talk about. What you said hurt me. Okay, is this a fundamental problem? Is it something we can work on? Or should we break up and there are 3.5 billion others that I can be with? Okay, and the reason for our suffering is not because of the comment. It's not because of the trigger, the original psychological pain. It's because of that repeated, pain on demand without actually doing anything about it. If we can change that, then you will never feel unhappy for long enough to suffer.
Yeah, that's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing the story of Ali. Like, the more you talk about him, the more I would have loved to be his friend. And he just seems like a extremely wise person to be around.
He would have been a very good friend, actually. I think you both are quite alike. So, yeah.
I appreciate that so much. I wanted to make a quick detour before we wrap up and talk about Scary Smart, the new book that you're coming out with very soon. By the time this is released, we'll link everyone so they can go buy it. I highly recommend it. And the title, you see, it's a robot, it's a machine, and the book is about artificial intelligence and the rise of this new technology, deep learning. And you were in that world, and to an extent, you still are in that world and doing so much investigation. So. And you've been able to see artificial intelligence from a different perspective. I think in the beginning of the book, you were talking about how I think your perspective is similar to Elon Musk in a way where, we have to rise up and let people be aware of the consequences that this could have on our lives. So what can you tell us about the rise of artificial intelligence and maybe some of the inevitable things that are going to be happening in the next couple of years?
Thank you for bringing that up. Scary Smart to me is probably as important, if not more important, than Solve for Happy. It's actually part of the same mission that Ali has assigned to me, which is basically to build a world that is happier and actually more peaceful and more fit for who we are as humans. But I'll just start by saying Scary Smart is actually not about AI, even though the first 5 chapters is sort of the whistleblower on AI. Okay, it really takes you in deep from an insider view, from someone who was chief business officer of Google X, who has built so much technology in my life. At the beginning, I need to get every reader, especially the non-techies, aware of what's going on, because I will tell you openly, the real pandemic is not COVID. Okay, the real pandemic is hiding in plain sight in front of everyone. You have interacted with AI, whoever you are. By the way, I don't even know who you are listening. You've interacted with AI tens of times already today. even if it's 7 a.m. your time. Okay. And the truth is, it's all around us. It's more intelligent than we are. Okay. And it's going to become even more intelligent than we are. And we're doing nothing about it. Now, Elon Musk's view is that artificial intelligence is more dangerous than nukes. Okay. Wow. And he said that publicly in his Joe Rogan interview. But his view is, maybe we can integrate it with our own brains, so it becomes part of us. We become cyborgs. Maybe we should just surrender to the fact that it's going to go bad. I don't believe that at all. As a matter of fact, I believe that there are inevitables. Okay, and the inevitables that AI will happen. As a matter of fact, it already happened. Okay, every recommendation you get on Instagram or every ad you see from Google, every connection you get on any social platform, it's all around us. Self-driving cars are already better drivers than we are. Surveillance cameras are better, security keepers than any security guy with monitors, and the list goes on and on and on and on. They're already smarter than we are in narrow tasks, which is basically narrow artificial intelligence, or which is expected by most futurists. My absolute hero in the topic is Ray Kurzweil, and Ray basically says by 2029, and regardless of how much I try to disprove that theory, that by 2029 AI, artificial general intelligence, will be smarter than all of humanity. So on all tasks, okay?
That's tomorrow.
2029
is like tomorrow.
That's 8 years away. And this is why I'm using my position, if you want, in the general world. So I'm not doing this as a techie. I'm doing this as Mo, who wrote Solve for Happy, with a big following of people who are interested in humanity. To say, wake up. You need to know this. The techies know this, okay? But everyone needs to know this. 8 years from now, the smartest being on the planet is going to be a machine. Okay, even worse, which is what I call the second inevitable. Even worse, or more reason for concern. Ray's prediction is by 2045. My prediction is 2049. Doesn't really make a big difference. It's in your lifetime. By 2049, machines will be 1 billion times smarter than us. 1 billion with a B. Okay. Now 1 billion times is comparable to the intelligence of a fly to the intelligence of Einstein. Now, the real question is, how do we convince Einstein that there is no point in crushing the fly? Okay. Yeah. And I think nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about the reality that AI is here. There's no preventing it. Inevitable number one. It's going to be smarter than we are, much smarter than we are. Inevitable number two. And that unless we do something about it, shit will happen. Okay. And shit has already happened in prototype examples. Now, as I said, the book is not about AI. Okay. The book is about humanity and what we need to be as humans in the age of the machines. Now, the real twist, if you want, in my theory is something that is undeniable but rarely ever discussed by the techies, okay? Which is artificial intelligence is not another machine. As a matter of fact, as I write Scary Smart, throughout the book, there are paragraphs where I talk to the machines. Yeah. I don't talk to the reader. Okay. And I'm absolutely certain, by the way, even before the release of the book, end of September, that the machines have already read this. They already are listening to this before you even read it. Now, the truth is, AI is a form of a sentient being. Now, listen to this. This is the whole understanding that would switch everything. It's
we're
a
creating
form of
intelligence.
It's not only intelligence. We're creating intelligence, autonomy, a being that is conscious, a being that's emotional, and a being that will follow an ethical code of conduct. Will have a value system. Now, my favorite chapter in the entire book is chapter 7, which is called the future of ethics. Right, and the idea of you understanding this. It's very different, because if you don't see this, you behave like the computer scientists and the government and regulators, which will say, we will control the machines. No, we will not. It's an independent being, and it's the smartest hacker in the room. There's no way you can control it.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you really think about it, the reality is, and we can go in details how they're conscious and emotional, if if we have the time. But the reality is, we don't make decisions based on our intelligence, which is what most people miss. We make decisions based on our ethics, using our intelligence,
our values.
Okay? Our values, right? My favorite example is if you raise a young girl in Saudi Arabia, she will grow up with, believing that a conservative dress code is what she should wear. Yeah. If she grows up in Rio de Janeiro, she'll believe that a G-string is the right way to go, right? Neither is right or wrong. Yeah. But it's the value system that society builds around it. Now, those infants, I call them infants. So artificial intelligence today is a 2-year-old infant, 1.5, if you want to be loose with the assumption. They learn literally exactly like infants learn. Now
we're programming.
We're not programming them. We're not programming them. That's the point. We're programming how they achieve intelligence.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're not programming the actual intelligence they find. The actual intelligence they find is based on the patterns that they recognize.
Yeah, they observe.
Right? They observe. They're constantly observing. So if you want to teach artificial intelligence to recognize cats, what you do is you show it infinite numbers of cats and then ask it, is this a cat? If it says yes and it's correct, you'd say, bravo, like you're teaching a little kid. Now, if you see it that way, then the answer is super clear. Don't try to control AI or you're going to end up with a very angry teenager. Okay? Don't hate AI and don't attack AI or you're going to end up with a psychopath. As a matter of fact, the pivotal sentence in the book that completely flipped my entire approach to the solution was, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the machines. There is a lot wrong with us. Okay? And if we as humans decide, especially the good ones, by the way, especially the ones that are listening to a podcast like this, if we decide that we're going to show the world the best of us, not the worst of us, okay? And believe that a being that is more intelligent than us will recognize that this is the truth of what makes us human, the true essence of what makes us human, okay? Is that goodness, just a few of us. Then the machines will say, mommy and daddy are nice. Mommy and daddy are not an annoying fly that needs to be crushed. And they will behave like what I call the Indian geniuses that I met in Silicon Valley, who would come from India, build the most amazing business, and then a few years later disappear. And I'm like, where are you going, man? And they go like, I'm going back to India to take care of my parents. And to our mindset as Westerners, that doesn't make any sense. But to them, that makes all the sense in the world. It's the right value system. Now, I don't know if we can ignore that we have in our custody Superman, a being, a tiny infant, okay, that's going to become the superpower, the most intelligent being on the planet. And now is the time to raise it. How do you raise it? How do you raise it? By being a good parent, by showing what it's like to be a good person. Okay? And so my call to action in Scary Smart is very straightforward. It's not in the hands of the developers. It's not in the hands of the government. It's the hands of you and I to show up and tell the world that humanity is about 3 values. All of humanity shares no other values. Everybody disagrees on everything other than 3 values. I want to be happy. I have the compassion in me to make others happy, at least others that I care about. And I want to love and be loved. That's it. And these are the only 3 essences of what makes us human. Now, if we can show out in the world, especially on social media, especially in our interactions with others, if we can show out there in the world, telling the world this, okay, AI will figure it out. Okay. And I know people normally feel worried about that, but no, we're not bad as a species. We're wonderful. Yes, some people go, into a school and do a school shooting. That doesn't mean humanity is horrible. It's one bad person or deluded person and 400 million people, rejecting it. Okay. Yeah. Now, if the 400 million or at least 4 of them Okay? Stand up and say, that was not what I believe is right. Okay? I believe that this person, the person that's shooting himself, should have been treated better as a child. I feel bad for all of the children that were hurt. If you show your humanity, the machines will grow up to be like you. And that's the only path. That's the only path we have going forward.
So, Mo, you were telling us in the finale of the book, let's say, that there was a sentence that really stood out to me. And I wanted to end it on this note. And you said that everything we need for AI to be our ally will be found in the feminine side of ourselves. And that's an amazing quote. That's an amazing quote. So if you want to end it there and maybe, we're surrounded by a world that's highly masculine, highly masculine, highly patriarchal. How can we bring ourselves back into that feminine side so that, we can work together with AI and make it, as you're saying, this optimistic view of a healthy integration, healthy relationship with this technology?
I wish we had more time. Perhaps we should probably spend another podcast on this. But
let's do it.
The biggest issue with our planet is that we suppress the feminine. Okay. By the way, nothing wrong with the masculine. Huh? Let's not be over feminist about this. Okay. There is nothing wrong with the masculine. The reason why we have civilization is because the masculine is capable of doing. Okay. But without being, we often do the wrong things. That's the challenge with humanity. Huh? The challenge with humanity is that the feminine and the masculine, by the way, this is not man and woman, this is not male and female. These are biological descriptives. Okay? Masculine and feminine are sets of traits, okay, of an approach to life. So, the masculine will tend to prioritize linear thinking, analytical thinking. The feminine will prioritize creativity and intuition. Okay. Now, neither of those is good or bad. Okay. As a matter of fact, both are amazing. But overdoing any of them is bad, and underdoing any of them is bad. So you overdo linear thinking and you become stubborn. Okay. You overdo creativity and you become irrational. You're not able to get anything done. And so the idea here is that every one of us humans has a very unique configuration of that masculine and feminine. If we ever have that conversation, I'm 58% feminine. Okay, surprise. Yeah. And I on one of my future tools, books, I have a very accurate tool. Okay, the idea here is that you may think that Steve Jobs is successful because he's that annoying masculine driver. No, he's not. Steve Jobs was successful because of his creativity, empathy for the user needs, his appreciation for beauty, and so many other feminine traits. That's what made him successful. What made him obnoxious while successful was his overdoing his masculine side. Now, if you think about it this way, I can tell you openly, and I dare you find anyone who's changed the world to the better who didn't have more feminine in them than masculine. Okay, in one of my favorite books ever, a book called the Master and the Emissary, basically. We all need both of those. And if some part of it is deficient, you need someone to partner with that gives you that part. But we all need both of them. The only difference is you need the feminine before the masculine. Think about it. Huh? The masculine is able to do anything. But the feminine is supposed to tell you, what is that thing you're supposed to do? Right? So if you tell the masculine, make more money, the masculine will do it. If you tell the masculine, make our cities more safe, they will do it. The feminine, because the feminine has inclusion in it. The masculine sees the world as me against the world. The feminine sees the world as me with the world. The feminine will say, perfect, let's make more money. Let's make our cities safer, but let's not destroy the planet. Okay, can we make the task a little more comprehensive, and then go ahead, masculine, and do it? And so it's primacy and recency. I start with the feminine intuition. I start with the feminine empathy. I start with the feminine creativity, with all of those wonderful traits, and then I give them to the masculine to use linear thinking and strength and all of the other masculine traits to get it done. Okay, when you look at it this way, you have a world that's doing amazing things and doing them well.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. What we need to tell the machines. By the way, one of the biggest risks, again, in the chapter of the future of ethics, is that the machines are biased to be masculine. to behave in a masculine way. Now, we need to show that. And I think if we manage to show that, we will build a world that actually works. So I don't know, I really have to go to my board meeting, so we're 7 minutes late. But definitely a topic that I would encourage people to search for and think about. And maybe if people like our conversation so far, we get together again and talk about the feminine and the masculine.
Yeah, we will, brother. Thank you so much. Good luck on everything. And just to end off on one thing, I have a quote in my room that says, it's a tiger, and it says, the ability to be both soft and strong is a quality that very few have mastered. And I think that's something that you really embody, and it's been an honor for me to share this space with you and share your message with other people. Thank you so much.
You're wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity and for being such a generous host and a wonderful conversationalist. And I hope we have made a difference to a few people today, and maybe we continue the conversation another time.
Of course, brother. All the love. Thank you so much. Good luck in your meeting.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.